Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Sargent, and this is my take on the death of Prince and the 27 Club. Quick summary: Prince died recently, and the 27 Club is a number of celebrities who died young, and we'll go over that little phenomenon. But first, just on Prince in general, I know I kind of delayed in making this one, even though it happened a little while ago, and that's because I didn't necessarily consider it anything really weird or strange, and I didn't think it was really tied to a conspiracy, so I thought I'd address it anyway. Real quick on the wiki, first couple paragraphs in the wiki entry on Prince. Full name was actually Prince Rogers Nelson, born 1958, died 2016. Was an American singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, record producer, and actor. He was a musical innovator, known for his eclectic work, flamboyant stage presence, extravagant dress and makeup, and wide vocal range. His music integrates a wide variety of styles, including funk, rock, R&B, new wave, soul, psychedelia, and pop. He sold over 100 million records worldwide, making him one of the best-selling artists of all time. He won 7 Grammys, a Golden Globe, and an Academy Award for the film Purple Rain. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2004, the very first year of his eligibility. Rolling Stone ranked Prince at number 27 on its list of 100 greatest artists, the most influential artist of rock and roll era. Prince was born in Minneapolis, developed an interest in music as a young child. He signed a record contract with Warner Brothers, age of 18, blah, 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 and then made a series of albums. Everyone, of course, if you're old enough, remembers the big ones like 1999 and Purple Rain, and with the movie that went along with that. And he really crushed it, and he just did extremely well. And then he died, and they're still looking into this as we're looking into this as we speak of what appears to be a drug overdose or something to that regards, which is why I'm going to kind of tie this to the 27 Club. Little interesting notes, though, as I was going through, as we get through all the other stuff about his lawsuits and how his eccentric side. His personal life was fairly interesting. I just wanted to, it's at the very bottom of Wiki. I thought I'd throw this out there real quick. Yes, he dated a whole bunch of women. Kim Basinger, Madonna, Vanity, Sheila E., Carmen Electra, Susanna Hoffs, Anna Fantastic, Cheryl Fenn, and Susan Moonsey of Vanity 6 and Apollonia 6. He was engaged to Susanna Melvoin in 1985. When he was 37, he married his 22-year-old backup singer and dancer, Mate, Mate Garcia. They had a son. The son was born with Pfeiffer syndrome, though, and died a week later. Prince and Mate divorced in 1999. In 2001, Prince married Manuela Testolini in a private ceremony. She filed for divorce 5 years later. He was big into animal rights. He was an activist who followed a vegan diet for part of his life, but later described himself as a vegetarian. The liner notes for his album Rave Unto the Joy Fantastic, 1999, featured a message about the cruelty involved in wool production. And another interesting thing about him, Prince joined the Jehovah's Witnesses in 2001 following a 2-year debate with friend and fellow Jehovah's Witness musician Larry Graham. Prince said that he did not consider it a conversion but a realization. It's like Morpheus and Neo in the Matrix, he explained. Prince attended meetings at a local Kingdom Hall and occasionally knocked on people's doors to discuss his faith. Wouldn't that have been fun to get knocked on your door by Prince? In fact, it was funny because the people by 2001, if you didn't, what would he have been wearing? A suit and tie? If he wasn't in some sort of really shiny sequin outfit, would you have really recognized him? Prince had needed a double hip replacement surgery. This is the part I thought was most interesting. A double hip replacement surgery since 2005. So that's 11 years ago. But would not undergo the operation unless it was a bloodless surgery because Jehovah's Witnesses typically do not accept blood products for whatever reason. The condition was caused by, big shock, repeated on-stage dancing in high-heeled boots because he was super short. Prince had been using canes as part of his outfit from the early 1990s onwards. Towards the end of his life, he regularly walked with a cane in public engagements, which led to speculation that it resulted from his not having undergone the surgery. Yeah, Yeah, because no doctor, out of fear of a lawsuit, is going to say, basically what the bloodless surgery means, if you need to have a little bit of a blood transfusion, if you lose some blood, which happens during surgery, they're allowed to give you blood, and he wasn't allowing that, so he said, no, I'm not going to do the surgery. Therefore, he just started walking more and more with a cane. And that's really the whole thing. In late March 2016, Prince told an audience he was writing a memoir tentatively called The Beautiful Ones. So he probably knew that something was going on. Hard to say. Do I think we'll wrap up the Prince thing pretty quick and just go over to the 27 Club because I don't think Prince is really long enough to make its own segment. Which is, do I think it was a conspiracy? Everyone's like, oh, Prince was killed because he was speaking out against this and that. It's like, look, I was in conspiracies as much as anybody, and Prince was not on the radar. So if there was a conspiracy, I don't know what he was tied to. Did he talk about chemtrails? Did he talk about this? And talk? Nobody even he was not on anybody's radar until he died. Like a lot of celebrities, you do your things, and with the exception of the 27 Club people, which we'll talk about in a second. Prince, he was in his 50s, and I don't think he really knew anything about anything. He, did a lot of drugs. He was a rock star, had access to tons of money and tons of drugs, and a lot of time on his hands. And his career, he had already made the Hall of Fame years earlier. And what are you gonna do? He'd made the Hall of Fame, I think, his early 40s. So he didn't really have anything to do. So that's where we are with Prince. I do not think there was a conspiracy tied to his death in any way, shape, or form. You want to look at a conspiracy with celebrity? Look at Joan Rivers. There's a perfect conspiracy for you. In fact, maybe I'll do a segment on that. I don't know, maybe I won't. But because it was really brief on her part when she walks into the plastic surgery office, and as she's, the paparazzi are out there and they're talking to her real quick, and she mentions that Michelle Obama is actually a guy, and everybody knows. Everybody in the inner circles knows, and she didn't pull it back. She didn't joke about that. And then miraculously, she died on the operating room table. Go figure. And that's because those questions were never going to stop after that. You can't, you're a comedian by trade. That's what Joan was. And she didn't pull it back and turn it into a joke. She was dead serious when she looked into the camera. You could tell it was, she was absolutely dead serious. And, she paid for it. So, anyway, but moving on, to Prince's death, there's something more interesting. You guys want to look up something up. It's called the 27 Club. And I'll read the quick wiki entry from 27 Club, which 27 Club is a term that refers to a number of popular musicians who died at age 27, often as a result of, wait for it, drug and alcohol abuse, or violent means such as homicide or suicide, which are usually tied to drug and alcohol abuse. The number, and by that I mean they're not just drinking, they're drinking and doing drugs at the same time. Lots of people do. And again, if you're a rock star and you've got that compulsive personality, you're going to be down in a lot of pills and a lot of booze. The number of musicians who have died at this age and the circumstances of many of those deaths has given rise to the idea that premature deaths at this age are unusually common. The club has been repeatedly cited in music magazines, journals, and the daily press. Several exhibitions have been devoted to the idea, as well as novels, films, and stage plays. There have been many different theories and speculations about the causes of such early deaths and their possible connections. Cobain and Hendrix biographer Charles R. Cross writes, the number of musicians who died at 27 is truly remarkable by any standard. Although humans die regularly at all ages, there is a statistical spike for musicians who die at 27. However, a study published in the British Medical Journal in December of 2011 concluded that there is no increase in the risk of death for musicians at the age of 27. Although the sampled musicians face an increased risk of death in their 20s and 30s, this was not limited to the age of 27. Informal research using an automated query across Wikipedia data in 2012 effectively reached the same conclusion. There may be a 27 club of accursed musicians, but the 74 club is more popular. A 2015 article in The Independent also proves statistical evidence that popular musicians are not more likely to die at the age of 27. Okay, all that being said, there were some really high-profile musicians that died at the age of 27, and the most notable, we'll go down the list here real quick. The Origins, Brian Jones, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, all died between the age of 27, between the years of 1969 and 1971. At the time, the coincidence gave rise to some comment, but it was not until the death of Kurt Cobain about 2.5 decades later that the idea of the 27 Club began to catch on in public perception. According to the Hendrix and Cobain biographer Charles R. Cross, the growing importance of the media, internet, television, and magazines, and the response to an interview of Cobain's mother were jointly responsible for such theories. Maybe so. But now, now there's been books written on it, and lots of people. It's a cool little story that's out there. But they did all die at 27. Is it just law of averages? You're doing a whole bunch of drugs and a whole bunch of booze at the same time, and you're touring. I mean, you're peaking. When you're your late 20s, early 30s in your musician years, normally. And the tours are getting really the grind gets on you. You're touring a lot. You're making albums. You're who knows? You're stuck in the rut and you're trying to find more escapism, so you consume a lot more of these substances. Maybe. Um, let's just go down. It starts way back in the day. Some of these go all the way back, until 1900. But let's go. Let's start. Just with the people that from like the 1960s. That's probably where we should start. Like Rudy Lewis, Joe Henderson, Malcolm Hale, Dickie Pride, Brian Jones. He supposedly drowned after he was the Rolling Stones founder. Um, let's see, Alexandra, Alan Blindell Wilson, Jimi Hendrix, of course, Janis Joplin. Uh, that was in 1970. Let's see, Jim Morrison, of course, singer and leader of the Doors. Linda Jones, Leslie Harvey, Ron McKerman. He was a founding member of the Grateful Dead. Roger Lee Durham, Wallace Wally John, David Alexander, Pete Ham of Badfinger, Gary Thane of Uriah Heep. Let's see, Chris Bell of Big Star, Jacob Miller, D. Boone, Alexander Blaschev. I'm just trying to find we're trying to find people, bands you might know. Echo of the Bunnymen, drummer Pete Freitas, Chris Austin, Joey Cigarinero. He was a keyboardist for Reba McEntire. Lead singer of the Gits, Mia Zapata. Kurt Cobain, of course, lead singer of Nirvana. Bass guitarist, and here's a little interesting one. Shortly after Kurt Cobain died, the bass guitarist for Hole, and remember Hole, which was one quick sec with Courtney Love. Courtney Love, of course, was the girlfriend slash wife of Kurt Cobain, and her bass guitarist, Kristen, she died of a heroin overdose shortly later, and she was also 27 years old. Oh, let's see. Richie Edwards and the Manic Street Preachers. Then we're moving up. I'm doing this in chronological order. Fat Pat, Freaky Tav, Lost Boys, Cammy, Rodrigo Bueno, Sean Patrick McCabe, Maria Serrano, Passion Fruit, Jerry Michael Ward, Brian Ottoson. Kind of a downer. All these people are dying, right? Vadaline Isolde, wow, some of these. Amy Winehouse was probably the most recent. She died of alcohol poisoning at 27 years. She was a couple months away from 28, but yeah, she died in 2011. Richard Turner, Nicole Bogner, and Thomas Lowe recently. But I mean, yeah. So there's a list of them, but yeah, the list of really high profile people are in there. I mean, there's quite a few names you do recognize. So, is there a connection? I don't think there's a conspiracy. I think it's just how we're built, and these singers again, as they're doing their tour and releasing a whole bunch of stuff, and they just need a little extra escapism. They take it too far. Who's there to stop them? You have that much money. Do you have somebody other than your agent? If you can't have your agent and your handlers around all the time, if the handlers aren't there to stop you, well, bad things will happen. So that's really it. Prince and the 27 Club. Prince, I don't think it's conspiracy. 27 Club, I don't think it's conspiracy either, but it is interesting. And if you are a budding musician thinking about getting out there, just watch yourself. Try to take your late 20s and early 30s with some moderation. Those are the people that last. It would have been interesting if some of these guys would have, and one other thing, we'll end on this. If you look for a silver lining, and that is, with movie stars and rock stars, and other people, when you die that young, you do become a young legend, because people remember you in that snapshot. The oldest you got was 27, and those are the pictures that people remember, and you don't get older, like say Elvis Presley, who was just an amazing singer in the 50s and 60s. And when he got into his 70s, kind of became a parody of himself and toured in Vegas. And Dennis Leary was right. Would it have been better for Elvis had he died young, like the rest of them? Anyway, just a thought. Anyway, you guys, thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.